January 18th, 2005. The game's highly anticipated album, The Documentary, was bumping out of every car stereo from Pasadena to Poughkeepsie. But did you know that track 3, Dreams, was dedicated to a slain woman's memory? It was a heartfelt act of solidarity to Yetunde Price. She was the oldest half-sister to none other than tennis goddesses Venus and Serena Williams. Some say there are two kinds of people. Those who are born to create an impact through the selfless acts they dedicate to people. Then there are those who are destined to leave a legacy after they pass, from this world onto the next. Fate had chosen Yetunde Price to be among the latter kind. Even though she was not a household name during her lifetime, her death immortalized her for the injustice she went through. Venus and Serena Williams made sure she was never forgotten. Before we continue with Yetunde's story, show C.R.U.S.H unit some love by hitting that like and subscribe button. And please ring that bell so you won't miss any future videos. Alright, let's get into it. Back in 2003, Yetunde and the tragedy that ended her precious life was a stark reminder of the spread of gun violence. What happened to her? And who was Yetunde Price? Yetunde Hawanya Tara Price, born August 9, 1972, to Oracene Price and C.R.U.S.H, was the oldest half-sister of two of the greatest figures in the world of tennis, Venus and Serena Williams. Yetunde was the oldest of Oracene Price's 5 daughters, born from her first husband, C.R.U.S.H. Yetunde Price was a dedicated nurse and owned a thriving hair salon business. She was a single mother to 3 young children and worked part-time as Venus and Serena Williams' personal assistant. Price was juggling between her personal and professional life as skillfully as her immensely talented sisters, the Williams. She never had her hand out and was a real go-getter, choosing to stay in Compton, even as her famous sisters insisted on helping her out financially. But unfortunately, her life was cut short by a Crip, hungry to make a name for himself. The evening of September 14th, 2003. Here's the facts pertaining to that night. There was apparently nothing unusual going on in Compton, California on that warm LA night, except that Yetunde was about to pay the price for something she had not done. Price was sitting in her SUV parked outside of a house, just 20 minutes from where she lived, unaware that the home to her right was a trap house. Her boyfriend, Roland Wormley, was with her in the car, and they were spending time together, just chatting, when some gangbangers opened fire on them in a case of mistaken identity that pegged them as trespassers in their hood. These Southside Compton Crips either thought they were about to rob the crack house or were members of their rivals, the Lime Hood Piru Bloods. Recalling the horrific scene that night, Yetunde's boyfriend Wormley told the Los Angeles Times that he had seen a figure in the dark on a street corner. And next thing he knew, quote, "I see flashes to my side. I don't know if it's from the front or the side. I don't know how many shots were fired. I don't even know what race or creed the attackers were. I didn't look once at my lady. I'm trying to get through this. I'm trying to get away. I'm trying to get her to safety. I see the back window is shattered. I looked to the right and said, 'Baby, are you all right?' I looked at Tunde, and there was blood everywhere." End quote. Wormley was fortunate enough to escape the gunshots. He drove her to his mother's place where she immediately called for help. They took her to the hospital, and Price was declared dead shortly after arriving there. The pronounced cause of her death was excessive blood loss due to a major bullet wound to the head. They had shot her with an AK-47. Just like that, a precious human life came to an end. Her children were now without a mother, and her loved ones were shattered. Her life perished at the young age of 31. Her dreams, her dedication to the community, were gone. Just like that. It was as brutal as it could get. The epidemic of gun violence in South LA killed an innocent life once again. The news of their sister's death soon reached the Williams sisters, and they were met with immense shock. At the time, Venus was in New York City, while Serena was in Toronto filming for a series when they found out Yetunde had been fatally shot. Both sisters flew to LA, followed by their mother Oracene and father, Richard Williams. Price's death was a stark reminder of the devastating aftermath of gun violence in the United States, especially against people of color. In a web series, Diversa T, featuring the activist Naomi Wadler, Serena Williams opened up about her sister's death and the despair it caused. Quote, "I was affected personally by gun violence. My sister unfortunately passed from that. People are really talking about it now because it's happening more widespread. It's been affecting our community for years." End quote. The tennis superstar was overwhelmed with emotions when she recollected her sister's death. She told Wadler, quote, "I went through depression. I never even talked about it to my mom. No one knew I was in therapy, but I was. I was so close to my sister." End quote. It was an inconsolable loss the family had to cope with. However, they did not let Price's murder go in vain. The case and repercussions. Now, let's talk about the men who killed Yetunde Price. Initially, it was unclear even days after the incident what exactly happened, but investigators finally got to the bottom of things. While Price and Wormley were parked near the suspected drug house, one of the gunmen had opened fire on their SUV, suspecting them to be members of Lima Hood Piru. This was revealed later, correcting the assumption that there was an altercation between the Crips, Price, and Wormley. Just a few hours after the killing, one of the suspects was taken into custody. The second gunman, however, was still at large. He was caught a few months later in January 2004 and was identified as Robert Edward Maxfield. Boyfriend Roland Wormley was also arrested on suspicion of domestic abuse, but was soon released by the police after several interrogations and lack of evidence. He suffered mental health issues dealing with this loss. His interrogation happened before the real killer, Robert Maxfield, was found. They revealed that Price was not the intended target. Rather, the vehicle she was sitting in was mistaken for that of a rival gangster's car with Lima Hood Piru occupants. The trial went on for nearly 3 years until Robert Maxfield was sentenced to 15 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter in March 2006. He was released on parole in March 2018, 3 years before his sentence ended, and was arrested again that same year for parole violation. The news of his release came as a huge blow to the family as they believed it was a slap in the face to the deceased and the justice system itself. It was reported that Serena had received the news 10 minutes before a match through an Instagram post, and her match with Johanna Konta at the Silicon Valley Classic had a dark cloud hanging over it. Serena was so distraught by the news that she lost the match within 52 minutes. Compton, one of the oldest cities in the county, was one of the first in LA to have a black majority since the late 1960s. It's unfortunate that it ended up getting plagued by gangs and gun violence. Even today, gang-related shootings continue to kill hundreds of Americans every year, many of whom are African Americans. Yetunde's lasting legacy. Yetunde was gone, leaving her family bereaved for years to come. Her sisters Venus and Serena Williams then decided that their sister's death would not be in vain. To channel their pain for the greater good, the Williams sisters commemorated her memory by opening up the Yetunde Price Resource Center, just a few minutes from where they used to play tennis as young girls. The center was inaugurated in Compton in 2016 in her honor. While talking to the media regarding the initiative, Serena asserted, quote, "We definitely wanted to honor our sister's memory because she was a great sister. She was our oldest sister, and obviously, she meant a lot to us, to myself, and to Venus, and my other sisters as well, Aisha and Andrea, that we've been wanting to do something for years in memory of her, especially the way it happened, a violent crime." End quote. Serena went on to open up about how closely knit their family was, and if it wasn't for her mother and other sisters, Yetunde Price's kids would have been devastated. The idea that so many people were left on their own to cope with such traumatic incidents was how the Resource Center came into existence. The center aims to ensure that those affected by violence and subsequent trauma have the resources to cope, overcome, and bravely move on. How does the center work? In short, Yetunde Price Resource Center works in collaboration with local organizations in Compton. They offer healing and trauma relief programs to assist the city's residents. All in all, YPRC ensures that those who are affected by tragedy are provided with the best resources that help them nurture, share, and find support within the community. As for the work done so far, YPRC has served thousands of individuals with programs such as group grief counseling, movement and art therapy, yoga, and meditation. They are particularly determined to support underrepresented groups. Men, women, children, and bilingual residents are all welcome. The center believes that people need more support than they are provided. As part of their key principles, the center has kept Yetunde's legacy alive as a caretaker, mother, sister, and a beloved family member by ensuring that they provide the same welcoming and nurturing environment. The Game's Dreams Dedication. As mentioned, in 2005, the rapper The Game released his best-selling studio album, The Documentary. It featured a song called Dreams, produced by Kanye West, in which he concludes the song by saying, quote,
"This song is dedicated to Yetunde Price, the sister of Venus and Serena Williams, who was slain during a gang shootout in Compton Sunday, September 14th, 2003. Rest in peace."
End quote. This compassionate gesture to unite African Americans was received with praise from all over the community. The Game also comes from Compton, just like the Williams sisters and Yetunde Price. He was robbed and shot in 2001 over a drug deal gone wrong. Getting hit in the stomach, chest, and ankle, he managed to regain consciousness, lucky to be alive. The Game, who was previously an active member from the Cedar Block Piru Bloods, gave up the gang life and immersed himself into hip-hop. His dedication wasn't random after all. He had gone through a similar incident himself, which is why he felt empathetic toward what had happened to Yetunde Price. In either case, Yetunde continues to live through her sisters and community years after her tragic demise. She continues to serve as a reminder for the African American diaspora that gun laws need to be reformed so that no more lives are lost, either in negligence or on purpose. Outro. Violence involving guns, especially against the Black and Latino community, continues to be an epidemic in the United States, particularly in places like South LA, St. Louis, and Birmingham, Alabama. There have been thousands like Yetunde who lost their lives unjustly due to gun shootings. Hers was a high-profile case since she belonged to a famous family, but there are those whose names don't make headlines. This is the reason why Venus and Serena Williams didn't let the tragedy get forgotten even after 2 decades. They are relentless in creating awareness regarding gun-related crimes, providing humanitarian support to those who are affected. Crush Unit prays for everyone's safety, regardless of your race or background. If you want to learn more about such stories, stay tuned to our next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.